Welcome to this week's edition of Dolphin Radio. And now, here's your hosts, Brad Michaels and John Bach. All right, welcome to this week's edition of Dolphin Radio. I'm Brad Michaels. On the phone with me is John Bach, as always. John, good to talk to you again. How's everything going in South Florida?
Well, actually, it's not sunny today, so I think we're all depressed. Should be sunny. Simply had a little overcast, nice breeze, so it's been a great day down here. Good Dolphins performance this weekend. I think we're all getting kind of excited about where this team has gone under Coach Flores. So I think we're good to go.
I think we're looking really good as well. And I printed out the entire National Football League game summary, so I had as much information on hand today as possible. I was really struck, though, as if you remember when I sent you the notes that I had taken and I just scanned those in. It was amazing to me that one of the first things I noticed was Iggy was back returning kicks, Igbenogany. Think they're trying to figure out some way to keep this guy on the team because he's not really making it that much at the cornerback position, although I'm looking at the depth chart today showing their nickel package, and he is right behind Byron Jones.
Well, I think they're trying to find out his role in this offense and the return game and special teams. So, again, we drafted him high. We paid him a good amount of money. But like we talked about before, there was so much depth on the defensive back and the wide receivers. We got to figure out who that guy's going to be. And, again, maybe it's Jakeem Grant looking outside in.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because I know we've talked about that. Jakeem Grant is listed second right behind Devontae Parker. So he fits into one of the top 6 receivers at this point.
Well, I don't think anybody thinks that Devontae Parker is a real answer. He's had too many injuries. We're not going to play him in that spot. But it looks like Jakeem Grant is on the hot seat right now, and we'll find out a little bit more this weekend.
Well, and he may have gotten a little bit of a saving grace. They let go of Robert Foster. As you know, that's another Alabama player. So a lot of people were freaked out when I mentioned, hey, we just cut a guy from Alabama. They're like, oh. I'm like, it's not Waddle, trust me.
The National Football League.
Exactly.
The National Football League. Anybody can be cut.
Anyone can be cut at any time. I think actually the guy that I'm going to go to bat for him. I thought Kirk Merritt looked really good in the game against Atlanta. I thought Malcolm Perry looked good when he gets his opportunities. I think Cal Loxley, I think he's not going to make it. I'm wondering what's going to happen in the tight ends room. And I'm also worried about what's going to happen in the running back room. I think Patrick Laird may make it if they keep 4 backs, which makes sense to me but they'll go running back by committee. But when you've had Myles Gaskin and Ahmed both battling injury problems, and Malcolm Brown could battle that, I think they got to keep 4 backs, don't you?
No.
Just go with the 3?
Myles Gaskin, in my opinion, won it. Yeah. Ahmed and Brown are 2 and 3. And anybody else has gone off the roster.
Okay, so that leaves Patrick Laird sitting, looking on the inside or looking outside, looking in, as well as Jordan Scarlett and Jared. Well, now Jared Dokes was a draftee. We're going to put him on the practice squad.
Oh yeah, he's young enough, of course.
Sure. Okay.
Keep him down. You'll keep 4 backs somewhere, especially with 16 guys in the practice squad. But you're only going to keep 3 on the roster, and then between Gaskin, Brown, and Ahmed, those are the 3, without a doubt.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Obviously, I don't think we're going 3 quarterbacks. So Reed Sinnett, despite looking very, very good, probably isn't on the 53 either. Which, by the way, next Tuesday we got to get down to 53.
Yep, and he'll go down to the practice squad as well.
Okay,
can he? I don't know anything about him.
I believe that he can. I believe he definitely can go onto the practice squad. I believe he will go there. Speaking of practice, go ahead.
Yeah, if not, they'll grab another quarterback and they'll put him in the squad, and they'll put those 2 quarterbacks. Somebody gets hurt, they'll elevate somebody.
Well, I like where we are at the quarterback position. Tua's looking great, a lot better. That was like night and day, the performance between the first preseason game and what we saw against the Falcons. With that in mind, and everybody looked good. Jacoby Brissett looked good. Reed Sinnett looked good. All the wide receivers that played, everybody looked good. I wanted to point this out. If you look at the game summary and you look at the scores, you look at the scoring drives, the Dolphins' first drive was 11 plays, 75 yards, and 6 minutes and 29 seconds. Their second scoring drive was another 11 plays, 66 yards, 6.5 minutes exactly. Third drive, 10 plays, 65 yards, 6:08. Fourth drive was the safety that Sam McGuavin got. Then you get Robert Foster gets the 8-yard pass from Brissett. That was a 10-play, 82-yard drive that lasted 5.5 minutes. And our final touchdown, 2-yard pass from Reed Sinnett to Merritt, was only 2 plays and 6 yards. That was our shortest drive of the night. I love a lot of plays, long drives, getting the job done.
Well, that's why they had 34 minutes of time of possession.
Absolutely.
You hear a lot of new coaches talk about time of possession doesn't matter. And of course it matters. When you keep your offense on the field and keep playmaking defenses off the field, that is the best thing you can possibly do. The fact that there are coaches out there and fans out there that doesn't think the TOP means anything, it absolutely does.
Oh, I agree with you. I go back to that. Go back to the days of old. Shula, Johnson, everybody. You keep that clock churning, keep your defense well rested, and get that offense. Just keep that offense on the field as long as you can.
Well, of course you're going to play better if you're rested.
Absolutely. Jason Taylor said that all the time. Hey, if I can go out there and I got fresh legs and fresh lungs, I'm good to go.
And that was Jimmy's offense. I mean, Jimmy's offense was grinded out just like Dallas. You know, time possession and turnover ratios were the two biggest things we cared about.
Absolutely. Well, and I remember, a lot of people got upset. And I think one of the reasons people got upset back when Jimmy Johnson was the coach is, you heard this whole, they go 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and then we get a field goal. Well, yeah, we started to have some problems where the offense but we were churning. We were getting yards. We were gobbling up yardage. We would get down into scoring position. We would have some stupid penalty, holding penalty at the wrong time, line up wrong, illegal procedure, somebody false start, whatever. We were always it seemed like we were always shooting ourselves in the foot. We'd get down there inside the 20, maybe down close to the 10, and then we would start backing up, and that's why we'd have to settle for the field goal. Was that just mental mistakes like we've seen, I guess probably now thinking about going back probably like the last 20 years?
Well, it's always mental mistakes. It happens, though. I mean, all those things happen, especially a crowd noise. I was playing with Miami one time, and we were going in the store on the 1. And the crowd noise is so loud that, the Danny called for the ball, and I snapped it and moved. No, Ruddy was the center. So Ruddy snaps the ball, or Ruddy doesn't snap the ball because he can't hear Marino because of the crowd noise.
Right.
But I was playing left guard. But when you watch the film, you can see Dan yell it out, but because I'm playing left guard, I can hear the snap, but they penalized me for 5 yards because Ruddy didn't snap the ball. And it wasn't Ruddy's fault. It was just the crowd noise was so loud, and when I heard Dan call for it, I left. So these things happen, but good football teams, it doesn't happen often.
Well, and that's why you see a lot of teams that go to the silent count. So you'll watch like Danny would lift his leg. I've seen it happen. He'll lift his leg. What's the count? Does he tell you in the huddle after I lift?
Either 1 or 2.
1 or 2.
We all know 2, depending on the snap. A lot of centers use head jerks.
Yep.
Where you put your head up once and they put your head down, you bring it up again so everybody knows what the snap count is. So your tackles are looking into the ball. So they're just looking inside to see what the count is, and they may leave even before the ball snaps because they know it's coming in the next count.
Well, that's interesting because I know that there's all kinds of different ways that other teams go about it. And that brings me to something else we were talking about. And I wanted to talk about this a little bit last week, but you mentioned to me when you coached, I was talking about having the wristband with all the plays on it and wanting to see a quarterback know the plays a little bit more in his head. And I know that's difficult. I know the playbooks are like 800 pages, and there's so many different sets and different calls. But you mentioned that you would code the plays. How exactly did that work, and how does that help a young quarterback, or any quarterback for that matter, being able to remember the playbook and to be able to call the signals, call the play in the huddle.
Well, every team has at least 20 of those in the playbook. So if you watch Peyton Manning over the years, you'll see Peyton Manning saying things like Chargers, Chargers, Chargers. That means a certain play.
Sure.
Like even right now in my kids' high school.
They're using it as well? Yeah.
They call pass plays with NFL teams, call it. Mm-hmm. And then they'll call running game with, call it college football teams. Or they'll call a pass pattern based off something they saw. So it's all word association for complex equations, essentially.
Absolutely.
You're talking about post, comeback, takeoff, flare. And then just by calling something else, it's inside zone away or it's inside zone 2.
Yeah, or use a color too. I've heard it say like blue 42, you know.
Yep. Yeah, it's all different things. So, but by word association is a way to confer what is really a complex equation. Like, you know, say it's pi. So say you're talking about pi, which is what? 3.2199 or
3.14 something, yeah, all the way out to 22229 or whatever it was.
So they're trying to figure that out as a math problem. It's called pi.
Yep.
And that's what most teams are doing right now. It's all word association. Remember that craziness we had a couple of years ago with the coaches on the sideline with the boards, and they all have different pictures on the board?
Oh, yeah.
That's how people play.
Yep.
Clemson was for it. I think even Alabama did it for a while. I never understood that. I thought it was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life, that you're holding cards up with 4 pictures that have nothing to do with football.
They were flashcards.
You had to know which one to pick. I never even paid any attention to those offenses. I'm like, that stuff's not going to last. There's a guy with a camera on the other side, and he's going to know exactly where that card was and what play you ran, because you're holding a card with 4 plays on it. Yeah,
exactly. And I saw that, and I thought the same exact thing when I saw that. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. That has nothing to do with the game. This kid's failing science, and they're trying to give him flashcards during the game and help him study at the same time.
No. In most NFL teams, most high school teams, most college teams, most players are by word association.
Sure. I remember learning by word association, so it makes sense. But like you said, don't be standing over there on the sideline with 4 different signs. Anybody that's got a pen and a piece of paper and could go, okay, down in distance, this hash mark and this yards. Okay. You're going to figure out the tendency. So you go in at halftime and go, hey, when he holds up the pig, they're going to run right up the middle through the left guard and the left tackle. And it's so stupid. Anybody can figure that out, because what does a backup quarterback do all game long in an NFL game? He's standing there charting the plays with the clipboard in his hand.
Yep. It's all in a computer now and everything else.
Yeah.
But I think I'm sure about this. I actually believe that Auburn used that board one time, and they had a picture of Fabio on the card.
Now that's funny. If I was a player, I'd be like, why don't you get a picture of Farrah Fawcett? Of course, I'm dating myself, but I want to go back and talk about Tungavaloa. Saturday night, here was his stats: 16 of 23, 183 yards. Got sacked once for a loss of 3, but he did throw a touchdown. His QB rating was 107.7, but that wasn't even the highest rating for the night. Jacoby Brissett got that with a 157.8. That's perfect, isn't it?
I have no idea.
Well, he was 8 of 8 for 99 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, I score quarterbacks by wins and losses and third down conversion.
Exactly.
Can you get me another set of downs on third down? That's what I care about. Do not turn the ball over. So, I mean, all those everybody talks about quarterback ratings, but you got to manage that inside of a game. So, Tua was what, though? In his first 2 drives, he was 8 for 8 for like 61, right?
Right.
Something like that?
Yep.
So, he's learning the offense. He's had a full offseason, and he's in year 2 of his development. So, he should be playing well. Guys around him are playing well. We're still very concerned about the offensive line. But we're not concerned about tailback. We're really not concerned about wide receivers.
Nope. Well, the only thing we're worried about in the receiver room is the number of injuries. How long are you guys going to be on the field before you walk off with another hamstring pull?
Yeah,
or the hangnail.
I mean, they're not. I mean, it was 103 today with humidity here in South Florida, which we think is a cool day because we have wind.
Sure.
These guys don't even practice outside anymore. So how are you getting cramps and pulled hamstrings? I mean, you guys are in an air-conditioned bubble. I don't understand this. Maybe they need to work out more outside versus playing one game a week, and the rest of the week they're in a bubble. Maybe you need to condition yourself to the heat.
Well, I think that's part of it. I absolutely agree with you. And I think, but isn't it written though? It's pretty much everything's written into the CBA now. Well, we get to practice indoors. We don't have to, it's just a walkthrough. We just go through the pads, no helmets. We put a red shirt on anybody who's slightly hurt. Isn't it something that the coaches can't say, wait, we're going outside today, or can they still dictate that somehow?
It's always about pressure. And a good coach, a good GM knows how to put pressure on you. So we had a complaint with Jimmy Johnson one time. So Trace Armstrong was our union president.
Yeah, I remember.
And we went and played a game in Mexico. So by the time we got on the plane, there was a 3-hour time change. We played at night. I think we actually had to land in Fort Myers and then bus another 3.5 hours because we had a hurricane coming in. And Jimmy said we all to be at practice by like 7 a.m., 8 a.m. And we were getting back at like 6 in the morning. And so Trace filed a complaint with the union. Then Trace goes to Jimmy and said, look, we're entitled to 24 hours off after a game. And Jimmy goes, you want 24 hours off? I will make sure you come to practice at 4 a.m. tomorrow if you want 24 hours off right now. So that was a big thing because Gene Upshaw was coming back to be voted in as the union president or the GM of the union, whatever you want to call him. And I'm like, you couldn't even get us 24 hours off. We were all threatened to be fired if we didn't show up for practice 3 hours after we landed, from playing a game in Mexico for the NFL.
Well,
so it depends how you run your team. You cannot care or you can care, and if you care too much, you might anger somebody. You don't care enough,
you're going to anger somebody.
It's just, it's very difficult to navigate when the union has put in absurd requests into the NFL about practice time.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Growing up watching this game, a youngster in the 70s and following it into the 80s and the 90s, and to see the way that it's changed, a guy like Shula, I just can't see him. I can't see a guy like Shula being successful now with the style that he coached with when he coached. He was a full-on disciplinarian, and that just doesn't seem to be the way it can happen. Except I will say this: I don't think I'd mess with Coach Flo. He looks like he's a bit of a disciplinarian also.
Well, he might be, but it's new circumstances of rules. So for the rules that Coach Flo has to go about, I'm sure he's going to be as disciplined as he can. But how far the league has moved to the left, it's very difficult. Like I said, we hit 3 times a week in practice, and that's only 20 years ago. Now you can only hit 17 times in a year.
Right.
In a year.
Once a week.
How do you get anybody better in training camp? How's the guy even make a roster now if he's not drafted? Because when you have 90 guys on this roster, we're about to cut down to 53.
Mm-hmm.
Most of these kids never even been on the field. You don't know if that player can play or not. You didn't draft him, so it really doesn't matter to you. He's just cannon fodder. It was hard enough before to make a roster. When you had 2 practices a day and you had 3 practices a week, then at least you could make a team by showing up every day. But when you get 4 snaps in 4 weeks, no one's looking at you. And that's why there's going to be so many guys in the street after the 3rd preseason game. And everyone's just be looking around trying to say, okay, let's go back to the scouting chart. Let's see what we thought about him in college. And then see if he's even got 1 snap that we can bring him in on our practice roster or our active roster to make us better.
Sure. It does make it a lot more difficult, which now I'm thinking about something. We've been talking about this as well. This is a 3-game preseason. So how do you, and then you have 2 weeks from Saturday when the preseason games are all done. You have 2 weeks before the season opener. So that begs the question, if you're a coach, are you going to put your starters in and get them some more work in a game because you've got that 2-week layoff between games before your opener? Or are you going to try to look at those guys? And obviously, I think in the second half, you want to look at those fringe guys to see about rounding out your 53. But wouldn't you want to get your starters some work?
I would. And, I've been challenged on this by players in the past. And I actually had a team meeting one time where the team called a meeting because I was practicing too hard down here in South Florida before we went to New York. But my whole staff was NFL players. I had Marvin Jones, I had James Brown, I had Kelvin Kinney, Joey Smith from the Giants. All my coaches were in the NFL. So these players said we were practicing too hard and they were gonna rebel against us. I said, okay. Let's have a meeting right now. Everybody hold your hands up. And I started asking questions. Who's been doing NFL camp? Who's been on an NFL roster? Who started an NFL game? Who started a playoff game? Who's been to a Super Bowl? And all my coaches are holding their hands, and all the kids' hands are down.
Yep.
I go, now I want to ask you a question. I go, what do I know that nobody else knows? Or no one else is thinking about right now? Of why we're practicing this hard in South Florida in the heat before we go to Brooklyn? Nobody had an answer. I go, because we have a first week bye. Either I get your legs now or I risk getting them in the 2 weeks that we have off before we play our first game. And then everybody's got right in line right there, and I actually cut my best player. Cut him. My tight end, who played 4 years for Carolina Panthers. And then I brought in a kid named A.C. Leonard from the University of Florida, who has the fastest combine tight end since 2007. And he ended up being the player of the year in the league. So it's about what you want to do as a coach. Now, what I've seen right now is no one's playing next week other than a series or maybe 2, and then they're going to round out the roster. Now, if I was a head coach, I would think that's wrong. But I'm not an NFL head coach making $5 million a year. But if it was me, I'd play another week right now because I should know by now who I'm keeping on my 53. And I got 16 more spots on my practice squad. That puts you at what? 79? Or no, 69.
69.
So we're at 69 players. I got 69 players I'm keeping. So I'm going to go and make sure my starters are ready to go. But that is not the way it's going to be handled this year. I just don't see that happening. So, because guys all talk to those teams. And like Buffalo would never play anybody late in the preseason. Miami, we always would. So it's a difference in coaching. But what's going to happen is they're going to sit everybody. They're going to fill out their roster to 69, 53 plus the 16. And then they're not going to play anybody other than maybe 5 minutes into the first quarter, which I think is a mistake with the limited hitting you have and the limited timing that you have, especially with all these young quarterbacks. If I had a young quarterback, I'd play him at least a quarter and a half, but you're not going to see him play for more than 5 minutes.
Well, and it's interesting, though, because Coach Flores has not really said one way or the other. The only thing that he said that could give us a hint that Tagovailoa and maybe even some of the other starters might play a little bit longer is that he said, look, Tua loves to play football. And I think if you're going to get better as a football player, you need to play. That's basically what he said. It's not verbatim, but that's basically what he said. So do you read anything into that?
No. And Howard Schnellenberger told me this. I was being recruited by Notre Dame, dropped me. And Alvarez the next year went to Wisconsin and tried to get me to transfer. I had Jimmy Johnson at Miami and I had Howard Schnellenberger at Louisville were my last 2 choices. And I'll never forget this. This is what Howard told me. We're doing his celebration of life September 10th at FAU Stadium. if anybody wants to go out there. But he told me this. He goes, John, you go to Miami and you'll play. He goes, you'll play as a senior. He goes, come play for me at Louisville. You'll play as a freshman. And that first year, we were ranked 8th in the country, and we beat Alabama 34-6 in the Fiesta Bowl. It was the best decision I ever made in my life. Was okay, I can take the big offer, which is Miami, or I can take the small offer, which is Louisville, but I'm going to play versus not playing.
Exactly.
So I think what Coach Flores is saying about Tua is he likes to play. He knows he needs a little bit more work to get the rust off him. So let's get that done. And he's probably going to play more than the other quarterbacks in the league are, but he's fine with it. And I completely agree with Coach Flores on that. I think it's a great move. Listen to your quarterback. I need a little bit more time. I need a few more times to try some things that I didn't feel comfortable with, whether it's that deep ball or that deep crossing route, which he's been a little nervous to throw, especially when he moves him out of the pocket. So I think it's a great move.
Well, and I do too. I agree that if Tua says, "Hey, I want to stay in," listen to him. As long as you're not seeing something, where maybe he tweaked that hip or something, or he's got a small limp or something, then I'd take him out. But as long as he looks healthy and he says, "I want to stay in," I might keep him in a couple of more series than I was actually planning to. I want to go through the stats. You mentioned that the one thing that you wanted to see instead of a quarterback rating, you wanted to see what did you do for me on third down. Dolphins on Saturday night against the Falcons, 7 of 9, 77.8% on third down efficiency.
Do you know what winning is? Third down winning is what percentage?
I would say third down winning percentage. You want to be 70 plus?
50. You win 50% on third down, you're going to win a lot of games. 75 is ideal, but 50, be above 50. And he was 87?
77. 77.8.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Keep me in third and short and convert third down.
Absolutely. Here's the total net yards. Dolphins 422 to 253. On the passing side of it, 286. No, I'm sorry, 288. Can I read that right? No, 286. Sorry, my glasses. I wear glasses for long distance, and then I have to push a piece of paper far away so I can read it. I think it's 286 yards in the air to 66 for Atlanta.
Well, they're trying to figure everything out right now.
True.
So, they didn't play well. But they dominated in practice, though. They played really well in practice and then didn't play well in the game. Again, they're trying to find their roster spots as well. So I would never read too much in the preseason, even if it's the Dolphins playing well or somebody else playing bad. I don't know what their philosophy is and what they're trying to get accomplished.
Exactly, and you don't know exactly who were the starters that were still playing up against the second and third string guys that the other coach is trying to see if they're going to make my 53 or not. So you don't really know, and it's, I tell everybody all the time, look, you can get excited about this game because what we saw was a lot of good stuff, but don't get overexcited because it is the preseason.
That's a great quote from Michael Jordan. When I forget who it was, they challenged him as a rookie in preseason and played well against Jordan. And then the first game of the year, the guy was in Portland, and Jordan comes out and goes, "This ain't preseason no more, Rook." And the Rook goes, "I didn't know they didn't play in preseason." So a lot of guys don't play in preseason, so or at least not giving you their best. So preseason is what it is. You can see some glimpses from young guys who are trying real hard. You know who your performers are as veterans. You can see, are they up or are they down? You knew Zach Thomas was going to play well every week.
Yeah.
Whether it was preseason or the Super Bowl, to him, that kid, it didn't matter to him. So, you got to judge it funny when you're looking at preseason. And Atlanta has a lot of old number one starters. I'm sure they didn't try very hard.
Probably not. And like you said, I can tell when I'm watching a preseason game, you can tell these guys, they're not going full throttle. That game is not as fast. I don't care how good the Dolphins looked the other night. The game is just not as fast as it's going to be come week 1 of the regular season. These guys are going at about maybe 3/4 speed.
All right. Well, the only thing we've really missed right now, Brad, is, we had a prediction that Austin Jackson might buck.
Right. And we
all see it because he's only 21 years old. I mean, he has tremendous upside, but is he going to be able to handle that spot? And why is Liam Eckenberg keep coming in and creeping in at left guard? So those are the two final pieces, in my opinion, for this Dolphins offense. They got to get their left guard, left tackle straight because they have not played well together all season, really.
Well, I agree with you.
Or they stayed the same. That's about it. Got a little bit better, not winning.
Well, the thing is that they're fine. And here's one good thing. They're fine. I shouldn't say fine. They're adequate on the right side of the line, which that helps because that is Tua's blind side. But
well, at the blind side, throw it out the window. Where are your best players lined up? They're lined up over the left tackle and left guard, the right side of the defense. So that's where everyone's going to line up.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's, I mean, it may be his blind side, but your blind side doesn't matter that much when you're doing full field reads.
Sure. Well, and that's true. That's exactly what he's doing.
Mac every time on the left side, it really doesn't matter. I mean, that's what he's looking at.
All right.
That's talking about incomplete passes, drop balls, high throws, picks, no seam route. You lose the whole left side of your offense if those two guys can't play. Forced
throws, throwing off your back foot or throwing when you're backpedaling or running for your life.
And being short.
Yeah. Well, and I guess he's 6'1", so he's not short by any means, but he's not tall when you consider the tall, how tall a quarterback, your prototypical quarterback is going to be 6'4", 6'5", or taller.
That's 3 inches shorter.
Right.
That means a lot when you have a 330-pound guard and a 325-pound tackle being pushed in your face every time, and you got routes on that backside that you can't make. So they can roll the coverage and shut you down because because that's not his blind side. That's dangerous. I mean, that's very dangerous.
Well, and like you said, you can't throw over him. And those guys, they got long arms too, because when they're walking straight up, their arms are, dragging, their knuckles are dragging on the ground because their arms are so long.
They are big, strong men.
Yeah.
And start getting those hands up and you're a short quarterback, even though you're looking into the pressure, you're going to see their best two defensive rushers and that will linebacker, typically. And that will linebacker, those guys are, when they're good, they're very good.
Speaking of linebackers, glad you brought that up. I want to talk about the guy that, despite how good anybody played, who would your player of the game have been?
Nice transition, by the way, don't you think?
It was beautiful, and I picked up on the hint.
All right, now if we're going to talk about Austin Jackson, we got to talk about Van Ginkel. And
True.
Van Ginkel may be in really real trouble right now. Number 49 linebacker. Now I practiced this name as the best I could get it, and it's probably as close as I'm going to get it. Igor Novin. Number 49, the linebacker.
Well, you're close. I'm pretty sure that I saw him in an interview. I think it was last year. Somebody asked him, "How do you pronounce your name?" And he said it's Aguavin.
All right. Well, guava is Spanish. I don't know how you get Igor Novin from guava. So I have no idea. But I actually tried. I'd like to give the man the respect that he deserves. He had safety. He had 4 sacks. He played outstandingly, and I'm really rooting for this kid. I really hope that he finds a place and a chance to show off some of the talent that he just came up with.
Well, and he had just come off of the COVID list, too.
Came up with it showed this week. I thought he was fantastic. It was such a breath of fresh air to find maybe that next new guy that can really contribute to that defense.
Yeah. 7 tackles, 4 assists for a combined 11 tackles. Like you said, the 4 sacks for a loss of 23 yards. And one of the tackles that he had on the night was for a safety.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the record? 6 by Derek Thomas,
I believe so. Yeah.
and he had 4 and a safety.
Right.
Tackle for a loss for a safety. That is one of the best football games anybody's ever had, and I hope it translates to him being a real force in this defense. And Van Ginkel, you got competition. As you get older, players are younger and get better. So it's going to be that's going to be a tough call for them, depending on what they think.
Well, now that you mention it, Van Ginkel, let's just go to his stats on the night. 1 tackle. Now, granted, it was for a loss. Wasn't a sack, but it was 1 tackle. That's it. And I'm looking at him. He's 3rd on this week's depth chart, if you want to take anything into consideration with that.
He's 3rd now?
3rd. Yep.
I didn't even know that.
Iguavan leapfrogged him, and Iguavan is right now behind Bernardrick McKinney.
Well, Bernard might be scared a little bit.
He might be, because Sam is looking at you, and if he keeps playing like that, he's definitely going to be he's going to be that number 1 guy there in the middle.
Well, I thought he played outstandingly. I hope it worked out for him.
Yeah,
I really do. So impressed by him.
I was, for the most part, if you saw my notes, you could tell, I was impressed by pretty much everybody that played. There was only a couple of things that I thought were bad, and I think that was the one holding penalty that, again, would come back to Austin Jackson. That was just a stupid holding penalty. He held onto the guy's jersey too long. Everybody else, though, I'm
confident right now. Austin Jackson, I wish I could call him right now and say, "Look, Austin, you're good enough. You need to play with some more confidence," because I really believe he can be a great player. But right now, there's something in his head, and he's playing himself out of a position. I wish I could say something to him. I really wish I could call him and be like, "Austin, we drafted you in the first round for a reason. You can play."
Well, and I agree with you. I think it would be great if you could reach out to that young man, because I do think he is suffering from a lack of confidence. His numbers, what were his numbers again? I don't have them in front of me. His numbers for the week, he was back down, 38.7 again or something like that?
They weren't good. He was 39.6.
39. Okay, so he was a little bit improved from the week before against Chicago, but not a whole lot.
I'm sorry I'm laughing. You can't call that an improvement, okay? You're still below 40. You're still below 50. So, no. I'm sorry, Brad. I love you, but you can't sit there and say, "Well, he got better." No, that is being a home. I'm not going to let you do that right now. No, he's still playing.
I'm trying to help, because I don't know if I don't know if anybody's listening to it. I don't know if Austin Jackson is listening, but I'm trying to build him up a little bit. Hey, we got 1 point. Come on, let's keep going.
Yeah. I got 38 cents now versus 37.
Hey, we'll consider for inflation from week to week.
Well, again, now you look at Robert Hunt. So Robert Hunt was 66.8%, but Liam Eckenberg was 78%.
Right.
And then Dieter, 76.6. And how you score that low as a center? I mean, you're slide protected.
Sure. But they've got him, and I'm looking, like I said, I'm looking at the depth chart. Don't know, depth charts in preseason don't mean anything to me. But right now, they've got Michael Dieter starting at center, Matt Skura backing him up, and then Tom Cameron, third string.
Well, they are what they are. But I'll tell you what, Mike Gesicki is making a name for himself right now that he wants that new deal. And he's doing everything right now to earn it. He was fantastic. Waddle came out the gates, ran great routes. I thought Waddle absolutely proved why we took him over Devontae Smith. So I'm liking where Waddle's going. We have a conundrum down there at the punt return. We don't know who we're going to cut out of that deep receiving core and that deep DB core. So there's some questions for next week, but we're going to go from 90 to 53 in a hurry.
Oh, yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of good Miami Dolphins around the street.
Well, we should already be down to 80 now. Those moves were made yesterday. Those moves were made. Wasn't anything surprising. We saw Isaiah Ford. He was cut. Another lineman was cut.
We also talked about, you and I had talked about that week one, that we thought Isaiah Ford was going to be released.
Yeah, he was just brought in as a camp body, just another guy to run because we had so many injuries on that wide receiver room. We needed somebody on the field. And he's been, to be honest with you, he's always been Mr. Reliable for us. We can bring him in, he gives it us all, and then we cut him and we still bring him in later.
Well, he's a great teammate, and he understands his role in this organization.
Yeah, and he goes out with a smile on his face, and he does what's asked of him.
Yeah, if he gets in the insurance business, tell him to call me. I'll buy a little life insurance policy from him. To get him out. Well, I just ran into Warwick Dunn's roommate, and that's what he's doing for a living. I didn't know who he was. He was Warwick Dunn's roommate, played running back at Florida State. I'm like, all right, man, call me. You got 4 kids. I'll buy an insurance policy off you.
Well, that might be where he's going, or who knows? Maybe he's going to be driving for Federal Express. Not exactly sure.
Great, but sooner or later you give it up.
Yeah,
that's one thing I'm saying. Isaiah Ford's a great player. I wish he would find his home somewhere. That's how much respect I have for him. But he's probably getting at the end of his career, and I'm just thankful for what he's done for everybody. He's been a leader. He's always showed up. I have a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, and that's what the coaches have always said. Hey, the guy is great. He comes in, he's got a great work ethic. We tell him what we want him to do, and by God, he gets out there and he does it. So my hat's off to him. Hey, I hope he lands on our practice squad, or maybe lands on somebody else's practice squad, or maybe they're 53. Who knows? But yeah, I think we're seeing it rounding out. What's that?
So all these young players, most of these young players can go to the practice squad.
Yeah.
So it's 53 really plus 16. So we're only going to 70. So we really got 11 more guys to cut. And there's going to be a couple top ones, and there's going to be some guys in the street that some other teams might like. Because I think our personnel department, our college personnel department, did a really good job this year.
Yeah, I do too. I look at our roster overall, and I look down this thing, and it's sad that you have to cut anybody because we've really, especially what we saw against Atlanta, that was what I said, it was a full team effort. That's probably one of the best full team efforts I've seen and been able to talk about from any Miami Dolphin team in quite a long time.
Well, I think we all think that they're moving in the right direction. I think we like seeing the product that we're seeing every week. They're getting better, and that's something to be hopeful for. I mean, we've had 20 years of, every 5 years we get one decent team, and now we're going into the third year. And I think we're going to be pretty good. We're
going to find out. The first 5 weeks, if you look at the schedule, our first 5 weeks are brutal. We've got... All right,
we'll hold together and get through it.
I think so. And that's going to set the tone for the rest of the year. If we get through that 5-game stretch at 3-2 or better, I think we're going to be good.
I don't think it matters that much. As long as they all hold together and Tuba gets better. So, I mean, you play in tough teams, you may not win them all. Hopefully you win the ones at home. You split on the road, and you get a pretty decent record for those first 5 or 6. Then buckle down and make a run. So all the last really good teams who have came up now, they've always made the run at Game 8.
Yeah.
The young team, I'm looking for Game 8 plus.
Well, look at Tampa last year.
Yeah, make that run at Game 8. Keep yourself in contention. Be 4-4. That's okay. But you hit Game 8, then you better dominate the rest of your schedule. I mean, you guys have been prepped for this. And I'm really excited. I think it's the first team I've seen probably since 09 or 10 that I actually believe could win.
I believe so, too. I think I look back to probably all the hype and energy that we had, I would say, going into the 2009 season, which would have been Tony Sperano's second season as the head coach. We had so much. We had just had that 1-year turnaround as the best in history, and then we all know what happened at that point. But I was excited.
Yeah, I was as well.
I can't say I was ever excited around Sleepy Joe. Sorry, Joe Philbin might have been a wonderful person and a great coach, but you just didn't have it as a head coach.
Do you think Joe Philbin and Cam Cameron. You think they hang out in the villages
I
playing taco all day?
don't know. They might. I
I can see them in Ocala right now, riding a scooter to happy hour at the 19th hole in Ocala, and then them two sitting down having a cocktail together.
Quite possibly.
30.
I just want to know, has Adam Gase landed anywhere since his, it was bad enough the way he exited Miami, but then what happened to him in New York? Has he landed anywhere?
Have you seen his eyes? I don't know where he went. He may have walked the Queens with that drifting eye that he always has.
Maybe he's meeting for drinks with Adam Schiff.
Right now, selling tacos. I have no idea where Adam Gase went.
I went political there, and I promised I wasn't going to do that, but I said maybe he's having cocktails with Adam Schiff.
He might. Nobody looking at.
Well, that's going to be something. I'm going to look that up for maybe a lead in. I got to find out, where are they now? You
could do that. Would be a whole episode of where are they now? Coaches after Jimmy Johnson and Don Shula. We do where are they now? We do like 48 hours.
Oh, I know. Well, I know, the one thing, and I was glad to see it, Dave Wannstedt, he did have a little bit of success when he went to Pittsburgh College.
Loved it.
Yeah, it was great.
Dave started me over. We signed 2 guards with about $21 million, and Dave actually started me over both of them. So Dave was always in my background. I got hurt that year, and then we had Tony Sperano come in who didn't like me, and then that's how I got fired in May.
Oh.
And went to Oakland. So, but Dave and I love Dave. I understood when they released me. I understood what happened. I had another serious injury, and I probably wasn't going to come back from it. So, but I have a lot of respect for Dave Wannstedt. I mean, we went 10-5 that year. We're 11-5.
11-5.
Beat the Raiders at home. Again, another Super Bowl caliber team, but we just couldn't get past the third round.
Nope.
Second round.
Yep. That was always the problem. We'd get there, but we could not get past the second or third. Usually the second round. We usually win one playoff game, and then that was it.
Yeah, that happened to us year after year. But the problem was we beat all those teams
in the regular season.
Yep. We beat them.
Yeah, and beat them soundly. I mean, we didn't just beat them. We beat them pretty good in the regular season, only to come back in postseason, and then they dominated us.
Remember that Monday night game versus Denver?
Yeah.
We were up 24-7 before we pulled the dogs off.
Yeah. And then couldn't get past them in the playoffs. But we said this, and we talked about this once before. It's hard enough to beat a team once. It's even harder to beat a team twice. Especially when the second time you're meeting them is in the playoffs.
Then have a wild card in your division. Now you got to beat them 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah, we had, how many times did that happen to us going against Buffalo?
Yep. Yeah, we beat Buffalo in the year, and then we give them the playoffs in the 90s, early 90s, and then Buffalo would beat us in the playoffs.
Yep. And it always seemed that Buffalo would beat us down in Miami. We'd go to Buffalo in the regular season. We'd beat them, but then we'd always have to travel back up there again in the playoffs, and they'd slaughter us.
It's cold.
Yeah, I know.
Very cold.
Yeah, I lived in upstate New York for a while. I lived in Plattsburgh for about a year. No, anywhere. I don't ever want to live anywhere again where I have to go plug my car in at night to keep the oil warm so I can turn the engine over the next morning. No way.
I was a rookie in Buffalo, and I go to minicamp, May 29th or whatever it was, and it snowed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm from Chicago. This is horrible. How the hell does it snow in almost June?
Yeah.
It was brutal up there in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Very brutal time.
I feel sorry for anybody that lives. Why would you live there? Hey, look, it's Miami. See this? Look at that. That's nice. Buffalo. Where do you want to live?
They still gamble on pinball machines. Did you know that? Buffalo pinball machines are still illegal in Buffalo because people gamble on them. That's how far away Buffalo is. In years as well.
That's how bored they are.
Yeah, Buffalo's a strange place, but I loved it. Great food, good people.
Yeah.
But very odd place. I'm like, what do you mean I can't play pinball? Oh, it's gambling. You can't play pinball.
Wow. Did you ever try a Salen's, the hot dog?
I don't know, maybe. I ate everything in sight when I was there with 300.
Well, I know that there's some. I've had them. They're really good. I still prefer Nathan's Famous, but the Salen's they were pretty good. Yeah, they're made there in Buffalo, so everybody loves the Salen's. Salens, I think.
Well, that was my whole coaching staff from Brooklyn because we practiced at MCU Park on the boardwalk in Coney Island. So we drop the kids off in buses to get ready for practice, and all the coaches would walk over to Nathan, and we'd all eat Nathan. Yeah. Then we go back and get a beer, eat some Nathan. We go back and coach football for 2 hours and go back to the hotel on Staten Island.
Yeah, I just, in my personal opinion, just can't beat a Nathan's Famous. So predictions for Saturday night. We're on the road at Cincinnati, final preseason game. Any predictions?
I don't even want to try. A preseason game, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't really want to try. I just think it's Cincinnati. I don't think they figured everything out. I'll say the Dolphins win it.
No, you can make a lot of money if you bet preseason games, if you understand coaches.
Sure.
So what I say is this. You want to bet $20? The Dolphins win because Cincinnati has their team together, and they're not going to play anybody. We don't have our team together. We're going to play guys a little bit longer. I would say the Dolphins by 7.5. Put $100 on it, $100 on it. My prediction of the week. My lock of the week would be the Dolphins over the Cincinnati Bengals by at least 7. If I had to make a prediction.
But again, like you said, and it depends on how long our starters are going to be playing against their second and third units, or our second unit playing against their third unit guys. We don't know, because you don't know what the coaches are looking at, what they want to see, and how they're going to do.
I know. Cleveland has their team. They're not going to play anybody. So Cleveland's going to be out, and all those guys in the Dolphins roster that we keep talking about, they're going to play well.
You mean Cincinnati?
30 half for 53. They're not looking for anybody else.
Yeah, you mean Cincinnati. We're playing Cincinnati, not Cleveland.
Cincinnati, not Cleveland. Yep. Sorry. Showstar's name came up today.
Well,
sorry about Cleveland. But Cincinnati, they have a talented roster. They're not going to play those guys more than a series. And then they're all off the field. The Dolphins are going to play more players. Tua's going to play longer. So if you want a prediction, Dolphins by 7.5.
All right. Well, there we have it. 7.5. I think it's going to be a little closer than that. I'll go Dolphins by 4.5, just because it's a preseason game.
I'll put 50 on that. $50 lunch at Bo Campers if I win or you win.
All right.
I'm going to say 7.5.
Okay. You're going to say 7.5. I say Dolphins by 4.5. So, okay. $50 at Bo Campers.
5.
What's that?
All right. You need 5. I need 8.
Okay. Absolutely.
All right. I'm in.
All right.
So
I am.
Lunch at Bo Campers. Dolphins win by 8 or less. You win.
Perfect.
If it's less than 5, then you don't win.
Right.
Then we're in Dutch.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. We're on.
Brad. Have a great day.
All right, you too. And we'll see you next week on another edition of Dolphin Radio.
Thanks for watching or listening. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. And for more great content, check us out on the web at www.dolphinradio.com.